Hello there and good evening. I'm Mia Gradney in the KHOU 11 newsroom. Thanks so much for joining us for this special KHOU Back to School Q&A. We know students, staff, and parents face some unique challenges yet again. Spring ISD's first day of school is a week from today, August 11th. And joining me tonight live is the superintendent, Dr. Rodney E. Watson. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's wonderful to have you along to tackle these questions. We know they are endless. But before we dive in, housekeeping. If you have questions, you can post them directly on Facebook. We'll try to get to just as many as we can. I'm checking here live for your questions. So let's dive right in. Let's start with one of the biggest questions we've been seeing from parents: mask. They're not mandated by the state, but how is Spring ISD handling masks, Dr. Watson?
Well, Mia, that's an excellent question, and it's a question that we've received numerous times from various stakeholders. And so what we've done is we've sent a letter out letting our families know that safety continues to be a major priority for us, and we're doing everything that we can possibly do to ensure their safety. As you know, we have received the governor's orders, which states that we cannot mandate masks for students and our staff in government settings. And so what we let our parents know is that they have that choice. So parents that are concerned about their child's safety in terms of not wearing a mask, they have the opportunity to require their own child to wear a mask day in and day out. And for those families that do not want their children to wear a mask for whatever reason, it's their choice as well. And so we're really letting parents know that it's really their choice to make the decision of what's best for their own child before sending them to school.
I know there are other school districts that are filing petitions with the governor's office, the state governor, Governor Abbott, seeking for him to lift this mandate. Will Spring ISD file a petition as well?
So we are definitely wanting to make sure that we stay focused on the safety of all of our students and our staff in the district. And so we have made numerous requests to various stakeholders, letting them know what our stance is that we want our staff to feel comfortable as they're going into the classrooms, as well as our parents. And so we'll continue to look for avenues to ensure safety of all of our students and staff.
Sounds good. Already getting some questions here. Linda Robertson says, when does it start? Linda, I'm assuming you're asking about the start, the first day of school. Dr. Watson, it is August 11th, right around the corner.
August the 11th, absolutely. So we've already had actually a couple of our schools start. And so we've had about 3 weeks now, an opportunity to see how things are flowing, how things are going in 2 of our elementary campuses, and things seem to be going quite well.
That's good. Let's tackle more COVID protocol and safety because that is top of mind. What are the recommendations for students attending Spring ISD campuses?
So the recommendation goes as the same way that it went this past year. We're letting parents know that if you're concerned about masks, definitely that's your choice to make the decision that's best for your family. But in terms of all the safety protocols, I mean, I think this is not the first time, or as we've said this past year, this isn't the first rodeo. We've done this. We've gone through this numerous times, many months. And so we're going to continue to focus on those things that are the cornerstone for all of the decisions here in Spring ISD. So for us, making sure that the learning needs of students are met day in and day out. In addition to that, the health and safety protocols for all of our students and staff continues to be a priority. We've got to make sure that those in our community, that we take responsibility for making sure that we do what's best for our community. And I think that's extremely important because so often we want to compare what one school district is doing to the next school district. And what we've seen over the past 16 months, that things change and things are different based upon the community, based upon zip codes. And so as we're making decisions, we want our families to know that we're making those decisions based upon what's happening in our community because we're responsible for that. And then last but not least, with that, it is our community's collective responsibility to make sure that we are investing in the health, the success of all of the members within our community.
Dr. Watson, will there be social distancing on campus?
So much that we learned last year is that social distancing is always based upon the number of kids that are in school. And as you know, we're not offering virtual education this year. And so based upon the number of students, to the degree that there can be social distancing, there will be. And so I think students and staff have learned over the years that there are places that we can spread kids out. But to be honest with you, there are going to be full classes this year. And so we've worked with our teachers, we've trained our teachers we're going to be going up to our student ratios in our classrooms. And so if you're asking if there's going to be a 6-foot distance between, there's no way that we're going to be able to do that.
Got it. Okay, so with that said, social distancing, we've addressed that. What about in the lunchroom setting with unmasked students?
So I think it kind of goes back to what I said earlier, that the health and safety needs of all of our students is our number one priority. As we think about the positivity across our zip codes, across our area, and definitely within our region, we're going to continue to look at that data and make the necessary precautions. So for example, we already have a program here in Spring ISD where we have breakfast in the classroom. And so that's a normal process that we've been implementing for several years, which
question from Jennifer Villanueva. She's asking, what would be the procedure for the first day of school for elementary school students?
So there's so many procedures for elementary students, and I'm sure all of us that are online and can think about elementary kids, especially pre-K kids going into classrooms on their first day. And so our procedure is normal. Our students will exit the bus. Once they exit the bus, they'll have a smiling teacher there on the first day waiting for them, and they'll escort them into the classrooms. And the same will accompany for our middle and high school students as well. They'll be directed to go in through the doors of the schools, and they'll be going down to their classrooms, much like we do in any other start of the school year.
Got it. Will the district track COVID cases this school year? We saw last year several of the school districts had dashboards posted on their website where parents, staff, students, anyone really could go and look at the case numbers.
So, Mia, that's an excellent question. One of the things that our board is committed to, as well as our cabinet, is ensuring that our parents have up-to-date information. And so we're going to continue our dashboard just to give parents a line of sight as to how many COVID cases are positive in that particular campus.
And really, the website is parents' best landing place for any information
Absolutely.
They need from the school district, correct?
Absolutely, yes. The website will have the most up-to-date information. We'll be updating that website, much like we did last year every evening.
What will happen when you have a COVID positive case on a campus?
And so it'll be much like it was in the past. If we have a COVID positive case, we know that our rules indicate that students that test positive will need to remain at home for 10 days. And so we'll have our systems in place, much like last year, to ensure the safety of not only the student that tested positive, but also the other students and adults in the building. And so those students will go through that process of being gone for 10 days. We'll be supporting them in any way that we can. And then we'll be making sure that we update the dashboard that evening so parents have that opportunity to see that as well.
So it sounds like really that contact tracing team at each campus is still there and still needed.
So we have a team that's here in the district. Our teams will always be operating to ensure that safety and the health needs of our community is met. And so we'll continue to use those as needed.
Do you worry, or is it a concern that if we start seeing a spike or rise in cases, that you'll have a sufficient amount of teachers and staff to facilitate class?
I think that's a question that everyone in the United States, across the state of Texas, has that concern. You know, we've gone through this last year, and so we have an idea of what to expect. Our hope, our prayer, our goal is that we don't get to that point. And what we're really trying to do is to be realistic, but not to instill fear within our community as well. We're trying to help people understand that we've gone through this, we've done this before. Let's really take the lessons learned and grow from those, and to really be able to close gaps. Let's continue to listen to parents, listen to our community and those things that worked well and the things that might need to be improved. And so we'll continue to do that. We'll definitely keep that reciprocal conversation going and that feedback loop to ensure we're listening, but also implementing as well.
Keisha asked, so what happens if we go back on a shutdown? I think she means to say, what happens if we go back into a lockdown situation in regards to school? Well,
I think one of the things, as I said earlier, we'll kind of learn from past experiences. If we go into a lockdown situation, that won't be necessarily anything that we'll set and establish here in Spring ISD. That will be something that will come from the health department or from the governor. And so if they should make that recommendation, we'll follow procedures similar to what we did last year. I think most importantly is helping our parents understand that there is a plan. Right now, we're not where we were this past year in terms of all of the events and things that we had to put in place to get ready for the beginning of the school year. But please understand that we did not discontinue and take all of those away. We still remember what we did. We still have those plans in place. So should things continue to rise, or should there be a need to pivot, we are ready to pivot as necessary.
Any idea, Dr. Watson, how many staff members are vaccinated within Spring ISD?
So we continue to look at the number of staff members that have the vaccination. And one of the things that we are extremely excited about is our partnership that we've had throughout the summer with Harris County Department of Health. Since January of 2021, we have been able to give over 36,000 doses were provided to our community. And as of today, we've been really looking at that percentage. And so we're probably about a little over 60% of the staff that are vaccinated. But as you know, as I'm sure with KHOU as well, that's an individual's choice, and people are making decisions of what's best for them and their families.
We talked about vaccination numbers there. Will the school district be offering any type of vaccination clinic for children, students who are eligible to be vaccinated?
Absolutely. We've been doing that all summer. We just had a big vaccination drive this past weekend where we were able to give out school supplies, not only test individuals for positivity, but also provide vaccinations for adults and students as well. And so we're going to continue to do that. As I said earlier, we've had some great community partnerships that have provided the vaccinations for us to provide for them. And so more than anything, it's really educating our community and helping people that have concerns about the vaccination hear from trained individuals to help them make the best decision for their families.
And Dr. Watson, if individuals want to learn more about those vaccination clinics and available vaccines, where should they seek information?
They can definitely go to our website. They can go to our Twitter page. Every time we get new dates, I'm constantly tweeting those out, as well as our communications department. And so we'll continue to do that to make sure everyone has access that wants it.
Another question here for you. Shell asked, why aren't they offering the virtual academy? And by that, I assume perhaps she means online learning. Can you explain what the learning platform is for the start of this school year?
So in Spring ISD, everyone will be in person. As you know, through the Texas legislature, virtual learning was not approved as a viable option for schools across the state of Texas. And so it's not necessarily a district's decision. We were not able, and it's not funded. And so if there will be any virtual education anywhere in the state of Texas, it will not be funded by the legislature.
But I think you mentioned this earlier or spoke to it, that if we found ourselves in a situation where we are on lockdown, students aren't able to attend school, then you still have the ability and the memory muscle to conduct virtual learning.
Absolutely. There's several lessons learned that we learned here in Spring ISD, and I'm sure that every district in the state and the country learned providing virtual education. And so we've taken those lessons learned. We've continued to plan. So should something happen, for example, as we've looked at concurrent learning, where kids were learning virtually and in person at the same time with the same teacher, we know that that wasn't the best option. And so should there be a need in the future for us to look at this differently, we're prepared to look at that and not necessarily implement the exact same model that didn't prove to be effective for all kids.
It sounds like you're having to be just as flexible and fluid this school year as you were last school year.
Yes, we know that being nimble is key. Being nimble is also going to be key from a parent's lens. It's extremely important that not only are we communicating the expectations and the needs, but as I said earlier, that we're listening to the parents to hear their fears and their concerns and their frustrations as it relates to this as well.
I understand. Let's get back to some of the questions that parents might have in regards to the school day once the school year starts. Let's talk about school bus protocol. Will there be social distancing on buses? Will there be limited numbers on school buses? How will that be handled?
So there won't be social distancing on buses, as you know. We don't have an unlimited amount of buses for the bus stops, but we will continue to implement our safety protocols, which I think is paramount. So for us, students that would like to have a mask that don't have one upon entering the bus, they will be provided one of those if they so choose to wear one or need one. In addition to that, we will be implementing all of our cleaning protocols, our e-misters that we use in between routes, encouraging kids to use safe practices as they're on the bus as it relates to talking with their peers and coughing and sneezing and all of those things that we've worked over the past 16 months to really instill and to teach and to train our kids. So we'll continue to implement that. But in terms of having one student on the bus, as I'm sure you can imagine, last year when we had limited amounts of students that were riding the bus based upon parents' options for virtual or in person, we were able to do that. But now that since there's no virtual learning in spring ISD, and majority of the kids will be coming back to in-person learning, we have to make those accommodations. But even within those accommodations, within that, we want to make sure that we still focus on the safety. And so that's going to be something that we'll continue to monitor. As I said earlier, we've already started school with a few of our campuses. And so we've been able to really monitor the transportation, monitor the interests of the school to at least get a semblance or a view of what's going to happen next week when we welcome all of our kids back to spring.
In case you are just joining us, we are live talking with the superintendent for Spring ISD, Dr. Rodney E. Watson. School starts August 11th in Spring ISD district-wide. Dr. Watson informing us, though, tonight that school is already taking place on some campuses. He's gracious enough to join us and answer your questions. We're going to continue with what about extracurricular activities and sports, Dr. Watson? Are we back to the norm with those?
Yes, we are back to the norm with those. However, we are continuing to look at our safety protocols. And as we think about the positivity cases that we saw last year, the majority of our cases stem from things that happen with families and kids and adults on the weekends, not necessarily that there was an outbreak or a large spread on the campuses, which really indicates that the practices, the conversations, and the concerns that parents had and the ones that they relayed to us, we were able to really work with them in doing that. And so, yes, we are back. I don't know that I would use we're back to normal. I don't think we'll ever be back to normal. I think the normal is going to be redefined, but we're back to a point where we are welcoming all of our students back. They are participating in extracurricular activities. We are monitoring that. We've had opportunities to be able to offer testing to our student athletes or anyone that's participating in other UIL events to really monitor and ensure their safety.
Will there be limited guests at games, social distancing in the stands, or anything like that?
At this particular time, no. We have been able to provide opportunity for our community to participate in their children's activities, and there's been enough seats, for example, in our stadiums that has allowed parents to social distance based upon their own personal needs and/or requests.
Let's talk numbers again. I know I asked you about the vaccination numbers among staff. How many COVID positives, though, did you have last school year? And you can break that down by either combined or, for staff members or known student cases.
So I don't have the exact number of positive cases. That was something that we tracked throughout the year, and we did it from a cumulative standpoint so people could see how many positive cases we had from the first day all the way to the end. And so for that exact number, I can't give you the exact numbers for those.
Understandably, but again, that's information accessible to folks. I have to ask you, are you concerned about attendance? I know that was a big concern last year because children were doing virtual learning and there was the concern about them participating in that. But are you concerned about attendance since we're getting back to in-person learning? Attendance
always is a concern. And so absolutely, we want to ensure our parents, we want them to know that we are really thinking about the best interests of your children. And so attendance continues to be a major concern. Because parents, if they're not comfortable, they won't have their kids come to school. And because there's no virtual option, one of the things that we've learned across the country, let alone the state, is that when kids are not in school, the learning loss is exacerbated. And so for us, it's extremely important that parents enroll their kids and that they have their kids attend school daily. And if there's concerns or questions, for them to bring them up to their campus principals. We have another system where parents can reach out and ask questions to me directly as well. But we want our parents to really understand that attendance is key. Attendance is key because when kids are not here, they're not learning and the gaps widen.
Do you think we'll see a lot of reteaching in some of these classrooms and trying to bridge that gap for students?
Absolutely. We have put out our recovery plan, and in Spring ISD, we're focusing on acceleration because we know that just remediation is not going to close the gap, as well as have the students learn the new information as well. And so we are really focusing our recovery efforts on acceleration. We know that there's learning that some kids missed, and so we're going to be providing with House Bill 4545 additional tutorials for kids outside of the normal day, and really wanting to make sure that we meet the needs of the students.
I know you've talked a lot about lessons learned from last year and really the semester before that, right? Before last year. What are some of the biggest takeaways, in addition to what you've already discussed, that you are able to apply this school year?
I think some of the biggest takeaways is the need to be flexible. And it's one thing to say that the district needs to be flexible, but parents, we're going to need a little grace and mercy from you as well as we implement new guidance, new rules that come down from the federal government, from the state, to keep in mind that as we're working through this, it really is a community effort. It really is going to be us unified. And as we make decisions, to understand that sometimes we're making decisions based upon the best information that we have at the time. And then as we get new data or we get new feedback, sometimes we need to pivot. And that pivot isn't a lack of understanding or a lack of planning, but it's pivoting, making sure that we're meeting the needs of all of our community. In addition to that, I think it's important for us and our community to continue to remember that all of us have varying views of what we feel about the situations that we're in. And then as we seek to meet the needs of all of our students, there are going to be some individuals that are not going to be happy. But rest assured that we have engaging teachers. One of the lessons that we learned last year is that our teachers were troopers. They worked extremely hard last year to ensure not only the kids' safety in which they were charged with, but they were also working and taking care of their own families, much like many of you all that are online as well. And so one of the lessons that we learned is that if we ever go back to a situation that we're doing virtual and in person, that we really want to focus teachers' efforts on one or the other and not doing both of them at the same time. We found that to be extremely difficult. And even in the midst of that difficulty, our teachers continued to do it and really provided some great opportunities for our students.
Back to questions from folks joining us. Mary Varela asked, what is the protocol when a child tests positive for them and any close contacts?
So the process somewhat mimics what it was last year. And as I indicated earlier, that if a child tests positive, they must remain out of school at home for 10 days. And so we're going to continue to follow that protocol. We'll be working case by case with the families regarding the steps we're going to do to ensure learning if the child is well enough to be able to continue participating in that. And if a child tests positive and they're around close contact with other individuals, we're going to continue to look at any new updated guidance that we get from the Texas Education Agency as well as the CDC to determine the definition of the close contact, to determine if that definition has changed. And if it has, we'll follow those procedures accordingly.
Another question, Dr. Watson. Shell Miller asked, the media is stating that those that are vaccinated can still catch COVID. We call those breakthrough cases. With that information, are the teachers required to wear a mask while working with the unvaccinated elementary school kids? We know this answer, but I definitely want to address Shell's direct question.
Absolutely. So as you know, we are unable to mandate teachers to wear masks as well as mandate students to wear masks. We strongly encourage any teacher or parent or student that has a concern about the question that you just raised to do what's best for them. And so we have teachers that are wearing masks now that have already started school, and we have students that are wearing masks as well based upon the choices that their families have made. And so we're going to support those choices, and we're going to support our staff in making the best decision for their family.
Question from Aurea Marina de Leon. She asks, since parents are being encouraged to keep kids with any symptoms or possibly exposed at home, will absences be counted the same as pre-COVID? Will they be required to have a doctor's note to return to school? Will their work be posted online for them to see?
So one of the things that we learned this past year with our learning platform, Schoology, that is really a great reciprocal communication tool. I'm helping families understand what their child is learning, when it's due, but then also really more about the curriculum here in Spring ISD. And so that tool we had actually purchased prior to the pandemic, and we were rolling it out. We just rolled it out a little bit faster during the pandemic. And so we're going to continue to have that. And so should the need arise for a child to be home for COVID, they will have an opportunity to log into Schoology, our online learning management system, and get the work. They can continue working from home. And if a child is working from home, much like any other illness that we have throughout the year, there are excused and unexcused absences, and that's determined on a case-by-case basis, depending upon what the illness is and if there's a doctor's note. And so we're going to continue to use those practices that have been in place for years, and we'll take that case by case.
Megan Blackshear asks, will staff receive more COVID days? She's not the only one to ask this question as well.
And so that's something that we're currently considering and working through. We do know that we want to make sure that our teachers' needs are being met as well. And so we're right now in conversation, trying to determine that very thing. We want to make sure that if a teacher tests positive, that they have the ample opportunity to recover and to get back to work. And we know that sometimes the amount of days that they have can be inhibiting. And so we are looking at that, and we'll be updating our staff within the next week or so.
Okay, well, we're going to wrap it up here as we approach or close in on 7:30. We've been at it for about 30 minutes here. But Dr. Watson, the big takeaways for parents and students as we embark on another school year while dealing with a pandemic.
So my closing thoughts or closing words would be, we know there's a lot of concern with parents regarding COVID and the uptick of positive cases that they're seeing across the state and across the nation. But we want them to understand that we are working together. We have planned for a very strong start this year, and stay open. We will continue to communicate with you, and to understand that as we go into this year, we're excited about the learning opportunities that we have for your students. Our teachers have worked hard. Their first day was today, and they are extremely excited about the year ahead, knowing that this is going to be a very difficult year to close those gaps. But in Spring ISD, it's really about every student, every teacher, every day. And we have declared that this is the year of the harvest for all the work that we've done, and we look forward to our continued partnership with you.
All right, Spring ISD Superintendent Dr. Rodney E. Watson, thank you so much for your time. And that's coming from a Spring ISD alum myself.
Yes,
graduated
absolutely.
from Spring High School, attended Spring ISD from elementary school all the way through high school. We wish you the best this school year, especially our students out there. Thank you everyone so much for joining us. Be sure to join us tomorrow as well. We're going to talk to another school district, all leading up to the start of school for various school districts in our area. So perhaps if you're wanting to learn something just in general, it's just as good to listen to another school district as well. But hopefully we got our Spring ISD parents, teachers, students, and staff, their questions answered. Thanks so much, and I'll see you a little bit later.